bill that, it was about $1 billion. We have about $5.2 billion of requests out there for projects of regional significance, projects that local communities or agencies can't do on their own. They need state partnership to get them done. About a third of that bonding bill would have gone to roads and bridges, with our transportation economic development package, our portals of commerce, and another third or so would have gone to maintaining our college campuses, the MINSCU system, and also the University of Minnesota. I have to tell you, I'm the son of a retired football coach, and we got the ball down to the 1 yard line on both those bills, but we got to get it in the end zone. And I'm hopeful later this summer, maybe after the primaries pass in August, we'll have a chance to go back in for a one-day special session, get those two bills done, and I'll tell you, I think that caps off a really productive 4-year run for our state senate. Balancing that budget, paying back that school funding shift, and also being able to make targeted investments in infrastructure and bonding and whatnot.
Is there going to be a special session?
I'm optimistic. I think there will be. I think the latter half of August you'll see a one-day special session. You don't go back and know unless you've got an ironclad agreement between the House, the Senate, and the Governor on what's in the bills, and you do it in a matter of maybe half a day or something.
In the campaign season, that.
Well, I have to tell you, I mean, interest rates are so incredibly low, and the backlog of worthy projects for capital investment is only going to increase. And so we want to stay up on these things. And I think now is the time to do that. And also, I mentioned that tax bill. I mean, there's some really good stuff in there. It's what, $500 million of ongoing tax relief or tax expenditures, one way or another, over the each budget year moving forward. Local government aid, township aid, county program aid, federal tax conformity. We also have reciprocity with Wisconsin and neighboring states. There's some good stuff in there that we want to see passed. And so I'm hopeful that we're able to seal that up here later this summer. And so I guess you look at the ugly, folks, it's campaign season, we all see it out there. So I see it knocking doors up. We'll have to endure the next few months together. But in any event, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly in 2016. And I just wanted to pay a visit, to stand for any questions or comments you might have, and just appreciate your time and letting me step out tonight. So thank you. Anything about this?
The only question I had is there really going to be?
I'm an optimist. I think it's better than 50-50. So, yeah. And we'll in Southeast Minnesota, that's pretty darn well in that bill. And again, I think some more good news. The state, we just got some good news. $230 million over projections for revenues for the final quarter of 2016. And so that's incredibly good news. The state economy continues to hum, but I think the challenge for us moving forward is to target attention and resources on those pockets in Minnesota that still struggle. A lot of areas in rural Minnesota haven't come out of the recession quite as strong as maybe the metropolitan area or some of our regional centers. So what can we do for job training or workforce housing, broadband internet, key investment, roads and bridges, sewer and water, those are the sorts of things that we do have to make investments in. So, all right, I don't want to filibuster your meeting. It's a nice evening, so I'll put you out in the way here. But thanks for your time and your counsel. I really appreciate it. All right. And if I knock on your door later tonight, I apologize for hitting you twice in one day.
I haven't bothered to knock on my door.
All right. Otherwise, I'll be around town quite a bit this summer, certainly at the Rose Fest Parade, which unbelievably is just around the corner. So, yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot. I'm going to go take advantage of the state levy as well. So, thank you. Appreciate it.
Good evening. So, on to old business. Item A, 8-year 10-ski for Hiawatha Land Transit.
Yep, right behind you. Just gotta get her sized up here.
Well, good evening. I was here, I believe back in February or March, to talk about transit and explain how the transit service works and to make sure you guys are okay with us doing the survey and finding out if there's a need for transportation. So we completed that survey, and I believe the city administrator included that in your packets, so you guys can see what we did there. So basically, when we talked about transportation, some of the things we covered, to sort of recap, is there is no public transit currently in this area at all. We do experience a lot of hardships with, there's no handicap or wheelchair accessible transportation in this area. There's no transportation in between communities. We also do a volunteer program. We have a limited number of volunteers, and it's becoming increasingly hard to find volunteers. And I think sometimes our volunteers are experiencing difficulty with insurance and things like that, and their insurance rates go up because they're transporting people and some of those things. So a lot of times people are stopping to do it altogether. And then a lot of times people have to go down to the Mayo Clinic or other places, and a volunteer could be down there for 10 hours a day, and that's really not something they want to do either. So we lose a lot of volunteers for that too. So those are some of the challenges we have in this area. So if you want to flip to the next one. So we did a survey, and we got 204 surveys completed in this area. which indicated, one of the questions we asked in there is if there was public transportation in this area, would you use it? And 74% said yes, which is a really high number of people that said they needed it. And I wanted to break it down. So when we did the survey, we got 121 responses from Kenyon and 83 from Wanamingo, so a pretty good break there. The sampling, just to make sure, I kind of wanted to explain to everybody how we did this. We put it on our website. We did cold calls. We did public outreach where we actually went around and visited. We had surveys at the bank, City Hall. We put it in the paper too with the link. We had a booth at Smelt Fest, some of those places to try to reach out to people. It is increasingly hard to get people to fill out surveys. However, I think we 204 for this type of population is not a bad sampling. So. Anyways, if you had the transit service were to become available, that 74%, we wanted to see exactly what they would use it for. We wanted to make sure it wasn't just for medical or just for education or something like that. And there's quite a array of what people would use it for. 10% to go to and from work, 36% for medical appointments, 15% for shopping, and 17% to go to and from school activities. Okay. Keep going over, and so basically the process for the grant requirements is it's 3 rides per hour is what MnDOT wants to see for their threshold. So basically I took, one of the questions in there is how many times a week would you use transportation if it was available, and if you said yes. So our multi-daily users, people that said they would use it more than 5 times a week, and I kind of broke it down by there. I tried to use the conservative number in between to guess how many rides we would get off these people at what they indicated in there. So 45, 132, 162, and 38. For our total rides indicated from the survey results are about 377 per week, okay? So if we were averaging 10 hours a day of service and we need three rides per hour, so we're looking at 30 rides per day across 5 days a week, we were looking at 150 rides per week that we would need for that minimum threshold. According to our survey results, it looks like people are indicating we'd have about 377 from the people that we just did the surveying from. Does that make sense for everybody so far? Okay. And so, can you go back one? The other thing that we asked in the survey is who would use it in your household? Would it be just you? 33% would be self-only, 48% they have other family members as well, okay? So it's also not included in our results in there too. So the potential for more people to be using transit is actually quite low. Okay, sorry. Okay, and then the next one, one of the things we did find out is there's not really a need for Saturday service. People did not indicate that they would really use it, which I thought was very interesting. Usually we have people say that they want Sunday morning service to get to and from church or things like that, but it was very, very low. So Saturday morning service was only 4% that they said they wanted it. Saturday afternoon was 4.5%. Sunday was actually the lowest, with 0.5%. So none of the people that surveyed really wanted it for that. And then Sunday afternoon was 1.12. So very low numbers for Saturday service. Looking to the next. So taking that all into consideration and based on the number of people that said that they wanted transportation, how many times a week they would use it, we feel that we have a very high potential usage in this area. And so, I wanted to basically, what would our proposal be then? And we talk about doing that dial-a-ride or that curb-to-curb service. Obviously, these communities are too small to have routes that run around town. We had kind of talked about the differences between that before. We would offer access to our neighboring communities and to Rochester. But it's going to be at limited times throughout the day. We can't have a bus that's going back and forth to Rochester nonstop. That's if you're going to go to Rochester at maybe just very early in the morning, you may be able to come back at midday and then maybe at the end of the day. But then we want to keep that bus in the communities transporting people, not just simply out of town the entire day, if that makes sense. So we allow that access. So if you do have an appointment in the morning in, say, Rochester or in Faribault, you may have to go at, if your appointment's not till 10, you may have to go at 8 because that's the time the bus is leaving. And so they just may have the time waiting over there. They still have access to transportation. They still, can have that ride. Just may not be exactly the exact moment that they wanted, but they would still have that access. Okay. So the cost of the service, we mirrored what we do in our other service areas. So to ride within your own community or within our service area, and remember this is a joint community service area, so it costs $1.75. So if you want to go from Wanamingo to Kenyon, or just around Kenyon, or just around Wanamingo, it's going to cost $1.75. Okay? If you want to ride to a neighboring community outside of this service area, it's going to be $3.50. So if you want to ride to Faribault, or if you want to ride into Zumbrota, it's going to be $3.50. If you want to ride outside of the county or to Rochester, it's going to be $5. And that's typically what we do in all of our service areas, right? Want to go to the next one? So, and then we were looking at hours of service. Like I said, there really wasn't a need for a weekend service or an indicator for that, so we definitely are not proposing to run any weekend service in this area. We're looking for more Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. With the no weekend service. Individuals can book rides up to 1 week in advance. We allow same-day call-ins and all that other kind of last-minute requests, but we can accommodate them up to a week in advance. Rides can be for anything and to any address. We don't limit it and say, we won't take you to, a political event, or we won't take you to a specific church, or you can't go to, say, a liquor store or something like that. We provide for anybody for any reason, okay? And the performance threshold, like I talked about, is 3 rides per hour. Based on the scenario, we would be running about 50 hours per week, and it would be 150 rides per week that are needed to meet that minimum threshold. So,
Sounds viable.
what's that?
It sounds viable.
It does, based on what we found in our research here. So basically, the city's combined commitment, and I just wanted to recap this, what we talked about before, is annually to run that bus. It costs for the fuel, the storage, the driver, the insurance, and whatnot. Three Rivers covers that. 80% of those funds come from MnDOT, and then the rest of it we pick up ourselves. And Three Rivers is responsible every year for paying for that. We don't come back to the cities and say, hey, we ran over, can you please help out? We take care of that ourselves. The capital requests on the vehicles, that is the responsibility that we ask of all of our cities. So any place that we have buses in those areas, they cover the 20% cost on that. This year when I bought buses, they were $74,000. So the 20% match on that would be the responsibility of the city. They get replaced every 6 to 7 years. Usually it's based on mileage if it's on the 6-year or the 7-year. In this community, going back and forth, depending on how it is, we won't know until after the first cycle. But it may be 6 years or it could be 7, depending on the mileage. Okay? And that would be the obligation of the cities. When a joint community like this, I let the two cities decide how they want to split that bill. That's their prerogative how they want to do it. Some people do it on population. Some people will split. I don't know, it's 1/3, 2/3, 1/2. That's up for them to decide. And then we also, like I talked about governance, we are governed by the Three Rivers Board of Directors. And we do have a Hiawatha Transit Advisory Board that we would ask a representative from the city of Kenyon to be on, and we meet quarterly. And then we also have a representative from Wanamingo as well too. So that's just kind of a recap and where we're at with this. If we do decide to move forward with this, I did send the city administrator, or I think it was in the packet as well too, a resolution that I would need signed that would go in the grant proposal to MnDOT. That's due here coming up on August 1st. I would submit that as well. MnDOT takes in their time in reviewing them. I would usually find out in about November if they did accept the proposal and decide to fund it. And then services would start on January 1 of 2017 if it is funded. So that's basically the process and how it works.
Very good. Any questions?
I have a question. You said 1% who would use it going to school. Now, what are you talking about going to school? Like going to vocational school in Faribault or Rochester?
No, sometimes we take out some preschoolers if sometimes in a lot of our other communities we do not do school transportation. So we don't run routes and take kids to school. A lot of times preschoolers are not. Parents have to provide their own way to get their preschoolers to and from school. A lot of times parents probably have difficulty with that because, preschool runs from maybe 8 to 11 and then they're working during the middle of the day. And so somebody to take them home at like 11 o'clock at that mid-time thing. The other thing is a lot of times kids will have, an after school activity or, maybe they're going to the library after school and then you get to daycare or something like that. So that's the type of stuff we do. We do not, I want to make it very clear, we do not do school transportation. That's not what we do. Our buses aren't big enough for that, and nor do we want to do that. It's just.
I got a question as far as your rates. You say $5 to go to Rochester.
Yep.
Say the bus leaves at 8 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
You go in on the bus, you pay your $5. The bus returns at 2 o'clock or goes.
Then it's $5 to come back.
That's okay.
Yep.
My question
So every
is.
time you step on the bus, you have to pay a fare.
So even the 175, is that 175 2 and 175?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So every time you step on the bus, that's considered, your fare to get on the bus. When you get off, that trip ends. If you want to go back home with us, some people only go one way, some people go both. When you step back on to go home, you have to pay a fare again.
do they have a pass where they can prepay?
So we have a fare box in the bus that people can put cash in. We also have tokens and passes for sale. We probably try to set something up here with the city where we sell them out of the city hall here, so people wanted to buy, passes and tokens locally versus having to call in and mail them and things like that, that we do that as well. We encourage, a lot of times counties that they're paying for transportation for their, for clients and things like that, they'll give them passes and tokens as well too. But we do have both of those available. Sometimes they make great stocking stuffers and Christmas gifts for seniors. We get a lot of requests for that kind of thing.
If this goes into effect, how long will it stay in effect, even if the ridership is not what you
Well, I've been
hope?
here 14 years as the director, and I've never had one cease to exist. We've done a very good job, and people actually do need transportation. A lot of people, we found, seniors love it. It's, as they transition from not driving themselves, it's a way to keep their independence and have to rely less and less on family members to have to leave and come and get them and things like that. Also, parents like it for kids if they, instead of having to leave work to run them to a park rec event or, whatever. We have never had a problem with that. I've usually had more problems than I can handle with, I don't have enough buses to put on the road because it's so much. But I don't know what to tell you because I've never had that happen. Usually every time that we've done a new one is they just transition it right into established funding and it just gets redone every year. So.
How do you educate the people? I mean, it all sounds great, but there's got a lot of people that
Yes.
you're gonna be really confused and how do we do this and how do we do that?
Yep, we have a marketing person that comes out, and we spend a lot of time in these communities. We also do have an outreach person. We'll go to places, like in Winnebago, I know there's, for example, and you have to forgive me, I don't know all these places off the top of my head myself, some of my other staff does. We go to these places and, they'll sit down and they'll basically walk people through it. They'll also get on the bus and show them how to ride. A lot of times we'll do free rides for people in the initial first months to get them used to riding it and feeling comfortable with it. We do a lot of just outreach to everybody. We do a lot with the clinics, so the clinic knows that they have seniors. We do a lot with priests and ministerial associations because a lot of times they know who needs rides too. A lot of times we let the schools know because if parents are having difficulties, with children or park rec or, those are all great resources that we do too.
So if you make a run to Rochester, what if it's only one person?
Yep, if it's only one person, we have to do it, because that one ride to that one person is just as important as, if it's
And then
35.
there would be no rides available for approximately 2 hours.
Depending on how long too. A lot of times what we do is if we look at our neighboring communities, if there's, they may catch the bus, we'll probably, excuse me, I'm fumbling here, but we have a bus that goes from Zimbrota down to Pine Island and then to Rochester. What this bus will probably do is meet up with that bus that's Zimbrota that's going down to Pine Island and Rochester, and they'll transfer onto there and ride down. Instead of us running 3 buses, from small communities down. Does that make sense?
But in that case, your $5 is for the entire journey, not
Yes.
for each bus that you got
Transfers are
onto.
also free. It's always free. So your journey, your start and end, you'll pay the $5 to the start and end. Yes.
You have them running through here already.
What's that?
I've seen them transit through here already.
A lot of times if we're shuttling buses in between, or our Head Start buses are also labeled with transit for the way that DOT does our DOT numbers and things like that too. So we do have Head Start in this area, which is a different type of program, but those aren't open to the public. So I know sometimes they try to, we're kind of try to help people out as much as possible, and I know that there's some other cases too where we've had somebody from Pine Island that needs to get back to Wanamago on the way. And so when they're bringing the bus back through at the end of the night, I know they sometimes slip over and drop that person off just to help out too.
So the resolution's in your packet. The only other thing I would say is, okay, we broke down the cost, and we would have to finalize the way that Kenyon and Wanamago would split that, but I think realistically probably would be based on our population. And so I just used a 2/3, 1/3 just for discussion. So our cost for this would be approximately 14,000, or the remaining amount would be $14,800. So 2/3 of that would be approximately $9,800, just to give you some idea of what that would probably be.
Each 6 to 7 years.
Exactly.
And there was something in there about the first 2 years are free?
Well, what we do in the first 2 years is we use a backup vehicle, before we, actually purchase a new one, for the area.
Not free to ride, but free.
Not free to ride.
No, but
Yeah.
free to the community.
So we wouldn't have to come up with that money for.
No, it gives you guys, I mean, obviously, it'd be really hard for me to say, hey, we're gonna start service January 1 and come up with
Give us
money for a new bus. You guys have a
$10,000.
budget. So we'd like to give you guys a little bit of time. Also, we wanna make sure that we get the ground running with transit and it's working really well. We don't have running into any hiccups along the way too, and that gives time for that. And then therefore, usually after the initial purchase, you know, a lot of them will put aside a couple grand per year into a fund that pays for transit, you know, the transit buses after that. So, but yeah, I know I mean, your guys' budgets are usually set by, it was June or,
Well, our levy has to be set by mid-September,
okay.
our maximum levy.
But it's really hard to go to, especially smaller cities and say, hey, we need 15,000 right now, so. So we try to use a backup vehicle, and what a backup vehicle is, it's one that's been recently replaced in another community. So, you know, it just for example's sake, you know, Zambrota's bus maybe just replaced last year, maybe take that bus and move it over here. We know we're gonna have less ridership to begin with, therefore, and all of our buses are still well maintained, they still have to pass 3 inspections per year, so they're very good buses.
So, we have a motion to approve resolution 2016-17, committing support to provide public transportation.
So moved.
Second.
I do have a quick question here. What happens if one amigo doesn't go along with this?
They passed it unanimously
They
last
did,
night.
okay.
Okay, I will second.
Okay,
Who
good.
did the motion?
I did.
Oh, thank you.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We're in business.
Thank you.
We hope.
Yes, we hope. Once I get the information back from MnDOT, I'll submit it August 1st, usually about November. I'll make sure to let you all, let the city administrator know so we can pass it on, and you'll see a lot of it then after that. Thank you.
Thank you. Proposed changes to city code, section 7, public utilities.
We talked about this last month. What we did was, we came back with basically right out of the city ordinance, section 705. And then we redlined what would be changed to try to simplify this. And then the other part would be 70507. So again, it's the difference between general hooking up to the city system or a new, let's just say a new sewer main in 705. 05 and 07 deals with a house that has a septic system that would hook in, but it's the same basic thing. It's just the timetable, the amount of time they're given to hook into the system, and right now it is different, and we think it should be the same, you know, for consistency. So what I put in here was this recommendation is November 1st of each year for both these sections. Instead of the 10 days or the 30 days or whatever.
Comments, questions?
I noticed that it's for septic systems. So this doesn't apply to private sewer lines.
It does. That's 05, 70505 would be 3rd Street and 1st Street. Examples where we have a new sewer main and somebody has a private lateral, 3 or 4 houses are hooked into.
Yeah.
Okay, in that situation, that would be 7505. That would be by November 1st. 7507 would be septic systems, which we do actually have one now. And, you know, that's why you never say that it's not something we ever see, because as soon as 2 days after the
Yeah.
meeting, then one comes up. That
And
would
who's
be,
responsible for deciding if you've got a private sewer line or not?
well, the city would, I mean,
Will they notify?
05, okay, so yeah, okay, I understand what your question is. In section 70505, where there's private laterals, those laterals may operate until we come through and redo a street. Because we don't right now force people who have a private lateral, say there's one on Red Wing Avenue, for example. We wouldn't force those people to have separate connections to a main unless, say, the lateral broke and they couldn't fix it. So they would all need separate connections. They would have till November 1st, to hook in. But if it's an emergency and a broken line, obviously they have to do it immediately. But if it's this really would deal with, like when we have a street that's reconstructed and we have a new sewer main put in, and then we hook all the individual homeowners to that main, that's what this applies to. 07 is when we have a house that there's a septic system, and the septic system either fails, or in the case that I was referring to, the house is gonna be sold, and the septic system will not pass, that it won't meet state standards, and they will have to put in a line. That's where 07 applies to septic systems, and that's where it would, again, what I would recommend here would be November 1st of a given year that they would have to hook into.
Any further questions?
If that isn't too confusing, but that's what it amounts to. 05 is basically when we have a construction project and we put in new lines and new laterals and new shut-offs, or the other one is if there's a septic system. And it does not happen very often.
Order to approve ordinance 81, third series.
So moved.
Second?
We'll second that.
And now we have to do a roll call on this one. Correct? Sort of says here in our,
Correct.
I'll roll.
we'll do it.
In favor of.
Yes. D. Aye.
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 Motion passed. Change August 9, 2016 meeting date.
So, change council day due to the primary. And so we need to vote for that. We talked about this last month. We can't meet because it's an official federal and state election primary. So I guess didn't really come up with any suggestions, because I didn't know people's schedules. But we would want to meet,
We want to move it ahead.
no, probably not. And I think, either that week or the next week, I don't think we want to go
No.
beyond that, just because, we have bills and different things that have to be. So I think from that standpoint, we want to stay
Actually,
close to that date.
changing that date is good for me because I have a trip to Minneapolis that day. Probably be back in plenty of time, but.
So we're looking at the 15th then?
You guys want-
Monday.
Can we go on a Monday?
Oh, yeah, we could,
Or any day, actually.
we,
Any day of that week or the following week would be fine with me.
yeah, like the third Wednesday,
Wow.
get into CAMU.
What about the 8th? Monday the 8th?
But other than that,
Sounds
These
good to
days
me.
would work for me.
I'm in favor of that, just do it, so it's really not, all we're looking at is 24 hours.
Right.
Joe?
But can I just say
How
something?
about-
If you wanna do that, we have all the election booths and everything that we have to have set up, if you're doing it the day before the election. And we would have to do all that setup then after the meeting.
What about the day
What
after?
about day after, on the 10th of August? Wednesday.
Tenth, I would probably be out first. I would normally be out.
I think it's after better, John's not gonna be able to do it. He'll be out of town.
So if we have a meeting, how does that interfere with you setting up booths? The chance that we could sneak in and vote?
No. It's just that there's a lot that we have to
We have a lot to
prepare in order to get ready for the election because it starts at 7 the next morning.
What time?
So.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what, could we bring this up?
Do it earlier in the day on
Yeah.
Monday.
Well, John's not gonna be,
I'm gone Monday.
but he would be around Wednesday.
Wednesday the 10th?
I'll be here Wednesday the 10th.
Okay, well, I'd have to skip CMMPA, but that'd be doable.
Wednesday the 10th is
Make a
good.
motion
I move we change the August council meeting to Wednesday, August 10th.
Same time?
7 p.m.
7? Sure. Okay, actually, I'd be back in time.
Try a little harder. I'm not gonna make it.
You got Randy driving. You don't have to worry.
I can't speed Randy, he's gonna drive his speed no matter what.
Okay.
Okay.
Did we have a second on
Yes, I
that?
do.
If we didn't, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We didn't, and disregard my second.
And then, we have the peculiarly named engagement letter for interim financing.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, George Eilertson from Northland Securities. And I know this is kind of a recap of a topic you talked about quite a bit earlier, and that is the temporary financing for the fire hall project. And as just a recap, if you will, you've got a overall project budget, $2,998,500. City contribution for land acquisition comes off of that, which leaves the $2.9 million for the USDA. And as Joe and your city administrator Mark explained very well, that at the time that you go out and issue interim financing, you use the $2.9 million as that figure. When you go to loan closing, and that would be upon project completion, that's when the adjustments are made prior to converting to long-term financing. So based upon the discussions you were having earlier, it sounds like construction bids are approximately $200,000 less. Potential savings could be found elsewhere as well, and that's just not known yet. So long-term financing should be less than the $2.9 million. You just don't know that at the start of the project construction. So direction from USDA then is go out and issue interim financing for the full approved loan amount, so $2.9 million. And again, based upon your project timeline, and I know that some of this may move around a little bit, but the pre-construction meeting sounded like August, and potentially construction beginning in August as well. What we were talking about is financing timeline of having a financing ready for you to approve in the month of August at your August 10th meeting now. Disregard my memo where it says August 9th. But you would approve that financing or consider a resolution that evening to approve the financing. That would provide financing in September. So you would have project financing in place once project expenses start rolling in. So no bond rating, we wouldn't work with you on the assignment of a bond rating. What we've got is a one-year financing structured for you So it's really September 1st of 2016 with a maturity in September 1st of 2017. Based upon your engineer's timeline, May 1st of 2017 is the approximate project completion date. So the financing would allow you to exit early without penalty. So we would either have a callable at any date financing or callable at any date after, say, 6 months. So again, that wouldn't restrict you from holding the financing, although USDA might say short-term financing for 1 year, you're probably going to be looking at interest rates less than 1%. And your long-term rate that you'll convert to at the end of the project is 2 7/8. So sometimes USDA says hold that 1% or less than 1% as long as you can, and then you'll certainly adjust to a higher rate after that. Of course, I should make the comment, 39 years at 2 7/8, that's a fantastic rate, so you guys are fortunate there. So no bond rating, it's such a short period of time that you're holding this money, it wouldn't pay for itself to have a rating assigned. There's not enough differential between non-rated and your existing bond rating, which is A, or in the A category rather. And so again, that cost just wouldn't pay for itself. What we're proposing is that the firm that I work for, Northland Securities, we would directly purchase the bonds from the city, try to keep the cost as efficient as we can. We would certainly explore trying to place as much of the bonds local, meaning banking institutions, what have you. The conversation I've been trying to have with the local bank is would they have an appetite in some of the short term as an investment for the bank. So I don't have an answer for you on that today, but we certainly would explore that before any bonds would be issued. So Council, I wanted to just come and talk to you a little bit more formally about that tonight, because depending upon your direction at your next city council meeting, there may be a resolution prepared by your bond counsel firm, Kenyon on the issuance of the debt. Mayor, City Council, any questions?
I have one question. What happens if you say it's from September to September 7th?
Roughly 1 year.
Yes. What happens if, say, because of bad weather or whatever, we don't complete at the set time?
Right, and that's a really good question. And we'll follow advice on architects, engineers on the project. If we could certainly take that into consideration and have an initially longer term, maybe it's an 18-month term instead of 12 months, with still the ability to exit early on that financing. So, good question. We'll have that discussion.
Would that change the rate substantially?
The rate shouldn't go up substantially. We probably see about at most 0.1% higher on the rate. Based upon information in your packets, I had put together a preliminary schedule based upon current interest rates. And what we're seeing is for 1 year financing approximately 0.75% for an interest rate. So if we stretch that out a little bit, we may be looking at 0.1% higher, so what, 0.8, 0.85%.
Let's do that in the opposite of the 18% months. Let's, you got a figure here of 0.75 equal to $21,750. Now, is that the max based upon this $2,999,000 for the construction of it? Is that the max we will pay based upon your figures here? Could it be less?
It could
Or
be
are
less,
you,
yes.
is this money in your pocket right there?
No, good question again. Now keep in mind, of course, this is based upon the current market. We'll see what the Federal Reserve actually does have a meeting at the end of July. I don't see the Federal Reserve taking action to raise interest rates before you consider the issuance of these bonds. However, sometimes the chairman or the chair of the Federal Reserve mentions things in their discussion that can influence the markets. But earlier in your discussion, you had a slide up that had the overall budget for your project. And again, you had an allowable amount in there for the interim interest. So any amount that we, for example, if the interest rates are lower or you don't hold the money as long as we show here, that just means that there'd be less interim interest cost, and ultimately your long-term loan will be lower. Okay. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Because certainly you wouldn't be, if we put a 12-month term together and you exit that financing at month 7,
Yeah.
there's 5 months of interest cost you won't have to pay.
Okay.
Gentlemen, do we direct them to proceed?
Almost at the point I'm gonna have to. You say it that way, but we don't have much choice. Am I correct? I forgot what you want to say. Okay, yeah, I will make it a motion. That we do the engagement letter for interim financing for the fire facility, we'll read it that way.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Wonderful.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor. On the bottom of my memo to the city council, I just made note of, and I know I talked about this a couple of times several months ago, but we don't have to spend a lot of time on this. This is just something that Mark and I are closely watching.
Right.
And it's the kind of bonds that you're issuing. Ultimately, we're issuing capital improvement plan bonds, and we have a maximum annual principal and interest component. And so that's what I laid out on the bottom of the page, that we're, and don't be alarmed by this, we're over by $48,000. Now again, that's based upon the overall budget of this project. If you have a project that's $200,000 less, we'll see that amount adjusted lower. Bond counsel has given us enough time to work this out. When we go to loan closing on the long term, so for example, if the project construction takes us 9 months, and then we convert at 9 months, go to closing with USDA and convert to a 39-year loan, at that point, we should have had this part figured out. And again, that's just to, maybe it's a little bit of contribution by the city to buy down your existing debt. And I know that it's debt that's for the city hall is factored into that equation, because there's municipal buildings are factored into the equation for this maximum principal interest calculation. So we've got the city hall and the fire hall together have to be under $144,000 of maximum principal interest. Now, we'll have a new pay 2017 market value for the city prior to this as well. So there'll be a few moving around numbers. So I just want to give you a really, really brief update on that to be continued on.
Great.
And that's why the note said something about paying off the city hall in order to get us below that figure.
That's certainly I'll review with your staff and then we'll make a recommendation in the coming months.
I'll be eager down the road.
Bottom line is we're in okay shape.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we move on to new business, resolution 2016-18, resolution of adoption of election judges for 2016. And the list of election judges is in the packet, and need motion to adopt the list of election judges for the year.
Making a motion.
And I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Kenyon County, quote, Nielsen Park Development, and note this has nothing to do with the Nielsen present at the table right now.
Or only slightly.
Well, nothing directly.
Yeah.
About
I
as
found
much.
it less than helpful maps.
It's right off the County Line Road.
Yeah.
So, basically in a nutshell, Goodhue County Public Works will be conducting a master planning process on the land, the parcels that were donated by the Nielsen estate. The county is looking for representatives from various sectors, various areas of the county, and they've asked if there could be a representative from the city to attend or participate in the strategic planning. I think at this point, I don't believe it's more than a meeting or two. I don't know anything about dates or anything like that, but they're trying to find some interested people. The purpose of the master planning process basically is to come up with some ideas or get consensus on ideas for uses of that park, because it's a large area, you know, it's wooded, and it's got a lot of potential, and they want to try to come up with some, you know, good, you know, uses that the public's going to buy into, and then hopefully we'll get people to use that park. And they're also going to get, you know, obviously representatives from the township and probably some other miscellaneous, but they would like a representative from the city, and I think basically that's because people from the city may use the park.
Now, would that be more appropriate to have a council person or someone from Park and Rec?
Park and Rec, well, I think I could probably even come ahead with a couple different people, because I don't know when it comes down to it, you know, how it's like trying to get people to serve on committees. So I wouldn't be surprised. I know there's one person for the park board that may be interested in it. So, you know, but I wouldn't be afraid to bring a couple different people if there's, you know, anybody else interested in it.
We've had that discussion, John. No, I'll tell you what I looked at is John is on our committee. I think he's done a very good job, and he also represents the council. So I'm asking John if he would volunteer.
Sure.
Thank you. Is that okay?
So you are making up a motion to appoint John as a representative?
Well, first we had to see if he was willing to accept. So on that, I'm making an motion then that we have John Mortensen as our rep for our Nielsen Park development. Represent the city.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're drafted.
This is live.
Donation for landscaping in Veterans Park. Doug, you brought this up. You in charge of the dog and pony show?
Well, at the moment, I am a member of the Kenyon Veterans Color Guard, and we have two representatives here tonight to explain to you a little bit more as to what is actually going on. And for most of you, I think you already know Mac McDonald and Richard Westfall, and they will present to you what they have, the information to pass on to you. We've had two meetings with the city administrator on this a little bit, just to get an idea. So he is up on it. Mark, if you wish to start off, that would be fine too.
Well, I met with these gentlemen twice, and, you know, they kind of walked me through. The diagram is up on the screen, and it's also in your packet. But I think it's a great project, and I think they can kind of walk through just real briefly what will be involved. I've talked to the manager of the municipal liquor store, and I think they would be real interested in donating toward it. I think it would be a really good use of, you know, municipals all over the state make donations to different projects, and I think this would be a great project for them to donate to. So, anyway, if you guys want to go ahead and just talk about it a little bit.
Well, it's just another way of improving things on a veteran park, I think. You know, it's come along real well. It's taken us time, but we thought this out ourselves, designed everything ourselves, and it looked pretty darn nice. So we just thought some shrubbery in that would add an added touch. And we contacted Story Landscaping because one of our members, Jim Story, this is his son and daughter-in-law that run this business. So they proposed this view here. It'd be shrubbery going up the sidewalk. It'll be kind of emphasized by the three front flags. Contains American flag. It would have something with red, white, and blue color. And that's what this is: white roses, red roses. And I'm not a botanist or anything. I don't know the names of the other two what's blue. But anyways, I think it looks good. They have pavers going in between the walls and flags to can people walk. So their estimated cost was $11.25 for the shrubbery and $11.25 for the materials, and they're going to donate the labor. Color Guard does have money for this, but if you want to make a donation and be very grateful, we can always use the money for other projects. So I'll be brief.
I think this is going to be a big draw for the city. Eventually, as word gets out, we get this thing wrapped up, people will come to visit that. So it's, I think it promotes the city very well, too.
We'll definitely brighten up that end of town.
Definitely. That's your end of town.
Yes, it is.
You guys have done a lot over
West
there.
End.
That's
East End.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's really nice stuff.
Yeah. Dan likes what we get in that cement work coming this spring, just tremendous. Really into it. Yeah, we can't thank enough the guys that helped us build it. Dan for one, companies with the mine, even the Black Granite Walls, Jay Fogelson's done work, Earl Frederickson's done work. You don't know all the buried treasures underneath that old park, I'll tell you that. It's interesting, but we made it work.
So, you also have a letter from the liquor store manager, and he would like to recommend, the council has to approve any donation they make, somewhere between $200 and $500, and I guess my thought would be $300 to $350.
You said the total was,
Roughly like around $2,200 to $2,300.
that's what I thought.
That would
That's
be
just
for the
a-
landscape side of it, yes.
Right.
Materials.
Yeah, we're-
Materials and plants.
And other expenses we're looking at, eventually we may have to add railing along the sidewalk. So there's ongoing things.
Work in progress.
That's what we're still working on.
It'll never be done.
Exactly. That's great.
Well, I certainly think that we should approve a donation here. Fred, how much do you think?
I gotta be honest with you, I think $500.
I agree. So do I. So I think you just made that motion, I just seconded it. So all in favor of donating $500 to this project?
Aye.
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 Excuse me, who did the second?
Mike?
I did.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
That's
gentlemen.
nice.
Thank Matt.
No.
Now, this was one of the easier things.
Oh, you mean Mr. Martell?
Yeah.
No, I know where Milty.
Oh,
I'll make sure I do that.
Okay.
This was one of the easier things you two have done for the
There's
smart
letter
and color guard.
You guys want to distribute that to your
Okay.
members from the union, from the manager. Very nice letter.
So we move on to appointments to the Park and Rec Committee. We had 2 more people that volunteered. We have other members that, long-time members that are ready to step down and move on to other things.
Oblivion Mass, but
Well, they've been doing it for a long time.
I'm getting a complex.
yeah, and they, it's just really more that several people in a 2 or 3 month period said they were interested to them or to us, just
Yeah.
out of the blue. And so they, a few of them thought, well, we've been doing this for a long time, so if there's other people, it'd be a good time to step down. So it's really just because there was some other new people that were interested, so. They did a good job, the girls we have now done on it.
Trying to
Thank you
find
enough.
names of the, okay, thank you.
Brianna Seifert,
Brianna Seifert.
Abigail.
Abigail Held. And, I would move that we approve those 2 new members.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Rose Fest requests. We have a list here of street dance permit for the Muni, parade permit, porta potty payment, street closures, sidewalk vendors on 2nd Street, 2nd annual Kenyon Fire Department 5K run walk route, and a $250 donation to the Cannon Valley Shriners Club. And those can all be approved as one motion. Do we have such a motion?
I'll do that motion. If somebody else is going to jump in.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are getting near the best part of the meeting. Schedule of upcoming meetings. Next city council meeting, August 10th, 7 p.m. Southeastern Minnesota League of Municipality meeting Wednesday, July 27th in Pine Island. And council and staff general comments. Any further comments, John?
I'm satisfied with tonight. It took a while, but we got a lot of things accomplished.
Good work takes time.
Yeah.
I had a comment and now I've forgotten.
My only comment is, doggone, why did you have to be late, Lee?
I'm sorry, I was on the phone with a gentleman, so I'm sorry.
My big song and dance routine and you.
I haven't put a copy of it, it's awesome, thank you.
Fred? Yeah.
Well, kudos to Lee.
No, thank you. It's really all the staff and the citizens, I just get the credit for it.
You notice I didn't give you all the credit.
That's good, I don't need it. They do a ton.
Anyone else? Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Goes to the 10.
I'm gonna ask.
Yeah, yeah.